Know what to say when cops question your cash? Most people don't, and it's costing them thousands. I'm about to tell you exactly what to say to protect your money during a traffic stop. It's a simple phrase, but it could be the difference between losing your cash or keeping it. Stay tuned to learn the 5 words that can save you from a financial nightmare. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more crucial legal tips. Now, let's get started. The common mistake: how your explanation can cost you. When you're pulled over and the officer spots cash in your car, it's easy to feel like explaining yourself will clear everything up. Most people think that honesty is the best policy. After all, you've done nothing wrong, so why wouldn't you share where you got the money? But here's the problem. Your explanation can become ammunition for the officer. When you start explaining, you're giving them a reason to dig deeper. A simple story about getting paid for a job, selling an item, or withdrawing money from the bank may sound harmless, but it opens the door for further questions. The officer is trained to look for inconsistencies or things that don't add up. Maybe you forget the name of the person who paid you or struggle to remember details. This hesitation signals doubt, and that's all the officer needs to justify further suspicion. Remember, the moment you explain, you're creating a trail of evidence that could lead to your money being seized. The officer now has reasonable suspicion to investigate, and that investigation could result in your cash being taken through civil asset forfeiture, even if you're never charged with a crime. The truth is, explaining your cash can do more harm than good. So, what's the right move to protect yourself? Stay tuned, because the next step is critical in keeping your money safe. How civil asset forfeiture works: the legal reality. Civil asset forfeiture allows law enforcement to seize property or money they believe is connected to criminal activity, even without charging the owner with any crime. This means that the police can take your cash, and you might have to fight to get it back, all while being presumed innocent. The process is designed to target illegal activities like drug trafficking, but it often extends to routine traffic stops. If an officer suspects your cash is related to a crime, they can seize it under the pretext of preventing illegal activity. However, the real kicker is that in these cases, you are required to prove the legitimacy of your money. The burden of proof shifts to you, the individual, which can be a complicated and costly battle. If the officer seizes your money, the legal system requires you to prove it was acquired legally. You'll need to hire an attorney, file motions, and potentially go through a lengthy court process to get your property back. For many, the cost of legal fees outweighs the value of the money seized, leading to the unfortunate reality that many never recover their funds. So, how do you protect your money from being taken? Understanding the law is a crucial first step, but there's more you can do in a moment to avoid losing your cash. What you say in the heat of a traffic stop can make all the difference. Let's dive into the best approach you should take. The critical phrase: protecting your cash with one simple sentence. When you're pulled over and the officer spots cash in your car, you might feel the urge to explain where it came from. You want to clear things up quickly, right? However, saying the wrong thing could end up costing you your money. I know it sounds intimidating, but there's one simple phrase that can protect you and keep your hard-earned cash safe. Instead of explaining where the cash came from, the key is to say, "I prefer not to answer questions." That's it. It's a calm, clear, and respectful way to exercise your right to remain silent. This phrase shields you from having to provide any details that could be used against you. You might think that being open will make the officer trust you more, but the truth is, giving any information can lead to suspicion. By saying those few words, you shift the power back to you. You don't have to explain where the money came from or give the officer a reason to dig deeper. You're asserting your rights, and the officer can't legally pressure you for more information. This simple phrase could be the difference between your money being seized or you driving away with it. You might wonder, what happens if the officer presses you further? Should you say anything else? Don't worry, we'll get into that next. A quick reminder: if this is making sense so far and you're starting to feel more confident about handling a traffic stop, make sure to hit that like button. What happens next? Handling the officer's pushback. After you say, "I prefer not to answer questions," you might think everything's over. But the officer may try to push further, testing your resolve. They might ask, "Why won't you tell me? You've got nothing to hide, right?" And when that happens, it's important to stay calm and firm. I know it can feel uncomfortable, but this is where you need to stand your ground. When they ask why you won't answer, the correct response is, "I'm respectfully exercising my right to remain silent." You'll need to say it clearly without hesitation. The officer might try to make you feel guilty or uncooperative, but this is where the power of your rights comes into play. The more confident you are, the less likely the officer will push you any further. Here's the thing. Officers are trained to look for signs of nervousness or uncertainty. If you get flustered or give in, it could be seen as an indicator that something is off. But when you confidently state your rights, it shows that you're calm, composed, and well aware of the law. This can actually work in your favor, as it makes it harder for the officer to justify suspicion based on your behavior. So, what happens if the officer insists on a search or tries to continue the conversation? You'll need to be ready to handle that. The next step is to deal with the consent trap, which we'll cover shortly. Trust me, this next part is crucial for keeping your money safe. The consent trap. How to protect your cash from being seized. I know this is a bit hectic, and you might be wondering how you can possibly handle the pressure when an officer tries to take it to the next level. After you've invoked your right to remain silent, they might switch tactics and ask for your consent to search your car or count your cash. They'll likely say something like, "You don't mind if I take a quick look, do you?" Or, "It's just a routine check. I'll make sure everything's fine." At this point, it's crucial that you don't fall for the consent trap. It's designed to make you feel like there's nothing wrong with letting them have a look. But here's the catch. Once you agree to the search, you've given them the green light to go through your things. The officer will be looking for any small detail, even something you didn't know was there, that could be used to justify seizing your cash. A small piece of evidence, like a receipt with a scribbled note or a tiny bit of residue on a bill, could be all it takes. Here's the simple rule. Do not consent to any searches. If the officer asks to look at your cash or your car, say firmly, "I do not consent to any searches." It's clear and unambiguous. If the officer continues to push, calmly repeat your stance. "I do not consent to any searches." You have the right to protect your property, and if they search without permission, they're crossing a legal line. But what happens if they search anyway? Well, there's more you can do, and I'll explain that next. What to do if they search anyway, your rights and next steps. I know it can feel overwhelming if the officer decides to go ahead with a search, even after you've refused. At this point, you might feel like you're at a disadvantage, but don't panic. There are steps you can take to protect yourself, and the first thing you need to remember is that refusing consent is your right. Even if they proceed with the search, you've made it clear that you didn't give permission. If the officer searches anyway, ask for a seizure receipt. They are required by law to give you a receipt for anything they take from your vehicle. This receipt should include the details of what was seized, the reason for the seizure, and the officer's name and badge number. Make sure to get this information. It's critical for your defense. Now, here's where it gets a little more technical. You'll need to act fast. If your money is seized, you have a limited amount of time to challenge it. Many jurisdictions have short deadlines, sometimes just 72 hours, before you lose the opportunity to fight the seizure. That means you'll need to contact an attorney right away to get the ball rolling. I know this sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. Refusing consent and getting that seizure receipt give you the best shot at reclaiming your money. From here, your attorney will help you navigate the next steps in challenging the seizure in court. A real-life case. How one client's cash was seized. Now, let me give you a real-life example so you can see how things work practically. Because, let's face it, theory is one thing, but seeing how it plays out in real life is a whole different ballgame. A client of mine, let's call him John, was pulled over for a simple traffic stop. He was on his way home after finishing a side job and had about $1,800 in cash in an envelope on the passenger seat. The officer immediately saw the cash when John handed over his license and registration. Before John could even explain, the officer asked, "Where did you get this money?" John, thinking it was safe to explain, started talking about his side job and how he had just been paid. But as soon as he said the amount of cash, the officer's tone shifted. The officer began asking more questions. Who paid you? How much did they pay you? Can you prove it? John, trying to be cooperative, answered all of the questions, but something about his story seemed off to the officer. He couldn't recall the name of the person who paid him or give the exact address. This hesitation triggered suspicion. Before John knew it, the officer seized the cash for investigation. What happened next? John had to spend weeks working with an attorney to get his money back. And while he eventually did, the process cost him both time and money. This could happen to anyone, but it doesn't have to happen to you. That's why I made this video for you. Outro. You now know exactly how to protect yourself and your money during a traffic stop. Remember, staying calm, asserting your rights, and refusing consent to searches are your best defense. Don't let the pressure get to you. Take control of the situation with the right words and knowledge. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more tips on protecting your rights, and share this with anyone who might need to hear it. Stay informed, stay safe, and protect what's yours. See you in the next one.